Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into, well, one of the biggest puzzles out there, the science of popularity. I mean, why do some things just explode? A song, an app, maybe a political idea. They become these huge global hits.
While other things, maybe just as good, just fade away.
Exactly. It's this massive question mark.
Right. And our sources suggest it boils down to two really fundamental forces. They often pull in opposite directions, actually. First, you've got our own psychology, what we humans just sort of like deep down.
Okay, the internal stuff.
Yeah. And second, there's the whole mechanics of distribution, how things actually get out there, how they spread through networks. It can be pretty chaotic.
Okay, let's unpack that. We've got material taking us from like 19th century lullabies all the way to today's social media feeds. And I guess we have to start with, well, the most basic psychological thing. We really, really like what's familiar.
That's absolutely spot on. If modern psychology has one finding that just holds up again and again, it's this mere exposure effect. It sounds simple, maybe too simple, but people reliably prefer things just because they've seen them more often.
Seen them, heard them.
Exactly. Consumer goods, songs, faces, even abstract shapes in experiments. The more you're exposed, the more you tend to like it.
It feels almost silly, but those Zajonc experiments from the 60s, right? With the nonsense words and random shapes?
Yeah, classic stuff.
People just preferred the ones they saw more often, even though they meant nothing. It wasn't about quality at all, just seeing it.
Pure familiarity. And that leads us straight to this idea of fluency.
Fluency. Okay, what's that exactly?
It's basically easy thinking. When something is easy for our brain to process, it feels good. We process it faster, and that ease, that speed, we misinterpret it as the thing itself being good.
So the feeling of easy processing gets transferred onto the thing I'm processing.
Precisely. And it goes further. Fluent ideas don't just make us feel good about the idea, they make us feel kind of good about ourselves because we understood it so quickly. Like, hey, I got that.
So easy equals good. And the sources suggest this blends together, right? Like, that sounds familiar. That feels easy. That feels right. And then, therefore, it must be good and true. It all mushes together.
That's a great way to put it. It's a cognitive mush. Familiarity, fluency, liking, and even perceived truthfulness can get all tangled up.
Okay, but what about the flip side?
Disfluency, hard thinking. That's where the less is more effect comes in, and it's really counterintuitive.
S is more. You mean trying harder makes me like something less?
Absolutely. When thinking about something is difficult, when it causes cognitive strain, people unconsciously transfer that feeling of discomfort onto whatever they're thinking about.
Huh. Any examples?
Yeah, there was this UK study about Tony Blair. They asked people to list his good qualities. Some had to list, say, 3, others had to list 7 or more. Coming up with 7 good qualities is much harder than coming up with 3, right? It requires more mental effort. And guess what? The people who had the harder task listing more qualities actually ended up with a lower opinion of Blair afterwards.
Wow. Just because it was harder to think of the reasons.
Exactly. The difficulty itself bred dislike. We just don't like things that make our brains work too hard most of the time.
Okay, but hold on. If we hate effort and just love the familiar, how does anything new ever break through? How do we get innovation? Why isn't culture just stuck?
That is the million-dollar question. And it brings us to this brilliant idea from the industrial designer Raymond Loewy, his grand theory, MYA.
MOA.
Most advanced, yet acceptable. Loewy knew he was always battling these two instincts in people. Neophilia, the love of the new, and neophobia, the fear of the new, the preference for the old.
So MOA is the sweet spot.
It's the perfect tension point. It gives you something novel, something maybe a little challenging, even surprising. But, and this is key, that initial surprise or difficulty almost instantly resolves into a feeling of comfort or familiarity.
Like an aha moment, but for aesthetics. An aesthetic aha.
Who got it? If the less is more effect shows that difficulty usually kills liking, Mei-Lu is like the targeted exception. You introduce just enough unfamiliarity, enough disfluency to grab attention, maybe even intrigue someone.
And then immediately give them the comfort of familiarity.
Exactly. That resolution, that click into place feels great. It delivers the liking after a moment of controlled challenge.
You can really see this in music, can't you? The sources mention Brahms's Lullaby, Wiegenlied.
Oh yeah, a perfect example. Its huge success wasn't just luck. Scholars point out how it perfectly fits the structure people were already familiar with in popular songs and folk tunes. It used repetition, but with these gentle minor surprises. It felt new. but grounded in the familiar.
And modern pop producers, like Max Martin,
Yeah,
they practically weaponize this, right?
absolutely. Martin apparently teaches that hit songwriting is almost mathematical. You need a strong hook, you need to get to it quickly, and then you need to repeat it a lot. Repetition builds that fluency after the initial grab of the verse.
It's the comfort food after the little taste of spice.
Nicely put.
And you see Maye everywhere, don't you? Like Hamilton on Broadway. It tells maybe the most familiar American story of the Founding Fathers, but does it in this completely fresh hip-hop style.
Right. The familiar story anchors the radical new style.
Even Shakespeare. Hamlet wasn't totally original, was it? Based on an old Norse myth, Amleth? Familiar plot, revolutionary language, and depth. That resolution of the new within the old. That's powerful.
It absolutely is. But here's where we need to make a big pivot.
Yeah.
Because you can craft the most perfect May I product, the catchiest song that balances familiarity and surprise.
And it can still totally bomb.
Utterly fail. Because human psychology, liking, fluency, that's only half the equation. At a certain point, distribution just takes over. It becomes almost everything.
Quality isn't enough. The sources are really clear on this. You need a way to get it to people. Think about how long things used to take to spread. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Debuted in Vienna, 1824.
Yeah.
Took 22 years to get its first performance in New York City. 22 years.
Unimaginable now. And industry research backs this up for, say, music today. Once a song hits a certain baseline level of quality or catchiness, let's say it's pretty good.
Right.
What separates the decent hit from the global monster hit isn't usually more catchiness, it's exposure.
Right.
Pure, massive exposure. Thousands of equally good songs just never get that push.
Which brings us to that amazing story, Rock Around the Clock.
Oh, it's the classic case study.
Released in 1954. Total dud. Right, a B-side, vanished without a trace.
Completely forgotten. But then, 1955. Pure luck, really. It gets placed in the opening credits of this controversial movie, Blackboard Jungle.
A film about rebellious teenagers causing a stir.
Exactly. And the controversy around the film, the reports of kids literally dancing in the aisles, riots in some places, that became the broadcast mechanism. The film's notoriety accidentally blasted this forgotten song into the public consciousness.
Same song. A year earlier, nothing. A year later, national anthem of rock and roll. First rock song ever to hit #1. All because of that external push, that distribution context.
It had nothing to do with the song changing or suddenly becoming better. It was purely the broadcast channel. And you see this logic playing out constantly. Think about advertising. It's most powerful for products where consumers don't have much info, like toothpaste or maybe wine for casual buyers.
Because you don't really know the difference, so the brand name you see everywhere wins.
Right. But for things where information is abundant, like flat-screen TVs with tons of online reviews, brand advertising has much less power. Information dilutes its effect.
Okay, and the sources bring this into the political realm too. That example from the 2016 U.S. election cycle.
Yes. And just to be clear, we're reporting on the analysis here, not endorsing any candidate. This source material highlights a dynamic.
Right. The point was about exposure. Two campaigns spent, what, around $140 million on TV ads, the traditional broadcast method.
Meanwhile, another candidate spent way less, under $20 million on TV ads. But they completely dominated what the researchers called the exposure primary.
How?
Because their statements, their rallies, everything was just so attention-grabbing, maybe even controversial, that the news media could not cover it. They essentially got billions, maybe $3 billion worth of free media coverage.
So the news outlets acted like an accidental, massive broadcast channel.
Exactly. It shows that sheer visibility, however you get it, can often dwarf calculated spending. Distribution, even accidental or controversial distribution, can be king.
And that distribution landscape itself has obviously shifted massively. We went from what the sources call infrequent big and broadcast, like everyone watching the same few TV channels.
Right, a one-to-many model.
To today's world of frequent, small, and social. Billions of people glued to personalized feeds on their phones all the time.
But this constant stream, this social connection, it fueled one of the biggest misunderstandings of the digital age, the myth of things going viral.
Viral. Yeah, we hear that all the time. It makes you think of a disease spreading slowly, person to person, right?
That's the image, yes. And it's usually wrong. Most things that get massively popular online don't spread like a slow contagion. They explode because of broadcast diffusion.
Broadcast diffusion.
Think about that famous cholera outbreak in 1850s London. John Snow figured out it wasn't spreading slowly house by house.
It was the water pump.
Exactly. One central contaminated water pump was broadcasting the disease to everyone who drank from it, instantly. That's a better model for most online hits.
So, like, an E. coli outbreak from one restaurant isn't viral in the slow spread sense?
Correct. And an article isn't usually viral because millions shared it one by one.
Hmm.
It's usually because one huge source, maybe a celebrity tweet, a major news site link, a big Facebook page, acts like that water pump and pushes it out to millions simultaneously.
Ah, okay. So even on social media, it's often still about big initial broadcasts, not just slow organic spread.
Research shows that's largely true. Even for news shared on Twitter, most people see it either directly from the original source or just one step removed. It doesn't typically trickle down through long chains.
So for something to get huge, it still needs that big push, like the modern equivalent of the water pump or the Blackboard Jungle movie placement or the Walmart book display stand.
Precisely. You need that broad initial seeding. And interestingly, the signal of popularity itself then becomes a driver. Duncan Watts did research showing that just telling people what's popular makes it more popular.
Wait, how?
They set up music sites where people could download songs. Some sites had rankings showing what others were downloading. People overwhelmingly downloaded the songs they saw were already popular. But here's the kicker. Even when Watts inverted the rankings, showing unpopular songs as popular.
People downloaded the ones listed as popular, even if they weren't really popular?
Yep, the ranking itself, the perception of popularity, created the popularity. We want what others seem to want.
That's fascinating. Okay, we've talked a lot about these external forces, psychology, distribution, but let's wrap up by looking inward a bit, at us, at the gap between what we say we want and what we actually, click on or consume.
Yes, the aspirational self versus the behavioral self. This is a huge challenge in today's media environment. It's the dozen donuts problem.
Dozen donuts.
Imagine an algorithm just tracks what you click on. You might click on celebrity gossip, listicles, quick diversions, like grabbing donuts. Easy, maybe momentarily satisfying, but not nutritious. If the algorithm only feeds you what you click, you end up with a diet of pure donuts.
Clickbait, essentially.
Exactly. Facebook even found this in surveys. Users said they hated clickbait, found it annoying, but their actual click patterns showed they engaged with it constantly. We say we want serious news, thoughtful analysis.
But we click on the funny cat pictures.
Often, yes, there's a disconnect.
The sources had that great McDonald's example too, didn't they? About salads.
Right. McDonald's introduced salads. Did salad sales skyrocket? Not really. But their overall sales went up. Why? Because the mere presence of the healthy option, the salad, made people feel better about going to McDonald's.
It satisfied their aspirational self. I could have a salad.
Exactly. It provided vicarious goal fulfillment. Having satisfied the healthy aspiration just by seeing the salad, they felt licensed to go ahead and order the Big Mac and fries their behavioral craving.
Huh. Okay, so we're kind of working against ourselves sometimes. How do we, as curious people trying to learn, break out of that easy, fluent, maybe donut-filled loop?
Well, the good news, maybe the slightly ironic good news, is that disfluency difficulty, the very thing we often dislike, can actually be our friend here. It can force us to think better.
How so?
Remember that study about the font, the
Oh.
Moses-Noah question?
Oh, yeah. How many animals of each kind did Moses take on the ark?
Right. When that question was printed in a nice, clear, easy-to-read font, a fluent font, most people didn't even notice the mistake. Their brain just skimmed over it, defaulting to the familiar story. Moses, Noah. Close enough.
Because it was easy.
But when the exact same question was printed in a really difficult, ugly, hard-to-read font,
Making it disfluent.
people were significantly more likely, I think it was 35% more likely, to catch the error, that it was Noah, not Moses.
Why?
Because the difficulty of just reading it forced them to slow down. It broke their automatic fluent processing. It kicked their brain into a more analytical, careful mode. Discomfort triggered scrutiny.
So a little bit of difficulty can actually be good for critical thinking.
It seems so. It
Or-
snaps us out of autopilot.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, our deep dive suggests popularity is this wild mix. It's part deep human psychology, our love for the familiar, for fluency.
And it's part external chaos. The unpredictable nature of distribution, sheer luck, network effects, getting that initial broadcast push.
It makes hit-making seem incredibly uncertain.
Oh, it is. The source material calls it making complex products for people who don't know what they want. That's a tough game. But perseverance matters too. Think of Bill Haley again. He was this, cowboy yodeler who failed for years before Rock Around the Clock.
And it just kept going.
He kept going. That persistence is what allows you to be there when one of those chaotic, lucky distribution opportunities finally shows up.
Right. Okay, so final thought for you, our listener. The sources leave us with this really important point about stories. A compelling narrative, something fluent and engaging, can teach us things, sure, but it's also incredibly good at selling us things, good or bad.
Narrative drama isn't inherently moral. A great story can make prejudice seem reasonable just as easily as it can build empathy. That power, that compelling nature, is mercenary. It serves whatever message it carries.
So the challenge for all of us is to be aware. A great story, a fluent idea, should be an invitation to think more deeply, not a substitute for thinking. You have to ask yourself, am I engaging with the science here, the real substance, or am I just getting swept away by a really well-told, really fluent vampire story? That distinction is up to you.